at Do the Boys Hall by Charles Dickens. Past 7, Nickleby, said Mr. Squeers on the first cold morning after Nicholas's arrival at Do the Boys Hall. Come, tumble up, the pump's frozen. You can't wash yourself this morning, so you must be happy giving yourself a dry polish till we break the ice in the well and get a bucketful out for the boys. Nicholas put on his clothes and was about to leave when Mrs. Squeers came into the room. She wore her night clothes and an ancient beaver bonnet. "I can't find the school spoon anywhere, and it's brimstone morning today," she complained. "We purified the boys' blood with it now and then, Nickleby," Squeers explained. "Let me tell you plainly, we don't do it just for the good of it," Mrs. Squeers said. "They have brimstone and treacle because they would always be ailing and giving a world of trouble if they didn't have something by the way of medicine. Also, it reduces their appetite and is cheaper than breakfast and dinner, so it does them good and us good at the same time." As Nicholas digested this information, Mrs. Squeers went back to looking for the spoon in the closet, with Mr. Squeers helping. After a great deal of fruitless rummaging, a boarder named Smike was called in. Mr. Squeers boxed his ears and asked him about the spoon. "You might have it in your pocket, ma'am," Smike stuttered. This indeed turned out to be the case. But since Mrs. Squeers had said earlier that she didn't have it, Smike got another box on the ear for contradicting his mistress. "You'll get a sound thrashing, boy, if you aren't more respectful in future," she said before going her way. "She's more than a mother to them," said Squeers admiringly. "She does things for the boys, Nickleby, that most mothers wouldn't do for their own sons." "I should think not, sir," said Nicholas, as he followed Squeers across a yard to the schoolroom. "There," said the schoolmaster as they stepped into a bare and dirty room. "This is our shop." Nicholas looked around with dismay at the windows, stopped up with old copybooks and paper, the old rickety desks and discoloured walls. But it was looking at the pupils, dressed in odd, ill-fitting clothes, that his hopes about the establishment dimmed. They were pale and haggard faces, boys of stunted growth, and others whose thin legs would hardly bear their stooping bodies. They were faces that told of young lives which from childhood had borne cruelty and neglect. These faces would have been handsome, but were darkened with a scowl of sullen, dogged suffering. Mrs. Squeers stood at the desk with a large basin of brimstone and